one of the great radio minds in America is Phil Boyce, and I have had the distinct honor of having worked for Phil for many years, going back to my days at WABC Radio in the late '90s, where Phil was the innovative, groundbreaking program director who discovered a couple of little people you may have heard of: Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, Curtis and Kuby. Phil knows talk radio the way architects know the interior of a structure. I mean, it's in his DNA. And of course, was the program director at WABC for the years that Rush was there as well. And I got to work down the hall from Rush and Phil. Thought it'd be kind of neat to spend a couple of minutes with our boss, Phil Boyce. Hey, Phil, a sad day and a voice that will never, ever be replaced.
A very sad day, Mike, and I count you and your name along with those other names you listed there at WABC when we had to rebuild the station. If you go back in history, we had to fire Bob Grant. Disney didn't like controversy, and they had bought us, and Bob went across the street to our friend Jerry Crowley at WOR and took half of our listeners overnight.
I remember.
And and the first person I heard was you, Mike. And and of course we still had Rush Limbaugh. I mean, that was the thing. I think if we hadn't had you and Rush Limbaugh, we wouldn't have been able to do what we did. But then, of course, as you say, we found Hannity, we found Levin, we rebuilt the lineup. And we got those people back that we had lost. And it took us 5 years to do it, but we finally became the most listened to news talk station in the nation again. But one thing I wanted to point out, Mike, because I've heard this narrative now several times since Rush has passed, even before Rush passed, that talk radio is over without Rush Limbaugh. And I just don't believe that's true. Rush leaves a lasting legacy. There are so many hosts that owe their careers to him. Not that they have to be like him. Nobody can be. Rush was unique in so many ways. But we can carry the torch that he now passes to the rest of us. And I don't think he'd be very pleased looking down from heaven to find out that the format's over without him. He would never have wanted that. He was so humble. He was actually a guy who was embarrassed when you complimented him, which I always found charming because, he got so big that how could you compliment Rush without saying something that hadn't already been said? So, we will go on. Talk radio will go on. Those of us here at the Salem Radio Network, we've built the strongest conservative radio platform on the planet. You guys are great from morning, noon to night, and this battle will continue even without the illustrious leader of Rush.
And he would want us to. There's no question he wants all of us to step up our game because we're battling for the heart and soul of America right now. We're in an existential struggle, and millions of people count on us to sort of to air breaking news, what to make of it all, how do we sort it all out, and I want to go back, if you don't mind, to your role as sort of there's the phrase the horse whisperer. You're regarded as one of the great talk radio programming minds in the world. I mean, you've consulted with in Europe, and you've gone around the world, and of course, you are known here in America as one of the premier talk radio minds and programmers. Your advice always, you always love the phrase, I want to hire somebody who's got a show just waiting to get off their chest. That was Rush. I mean, everything Rush as his boss, as his program director, Rush had to be the dream host.
He was the dream host, except remember this, Mike, he was fired 7 times trying to be a rock and roll DJ. And so that let that be a lesson to every one of us who struggle to get ahead and try and get better, and we just keep getting knocked back down. He just kept getting back up, but he finally found his niche. It wasn't AM rock radio. It was AM talk radio. That was his niche. And when he landed there in Sacramento at that first talk station that let him be Rush, let him talk, let him do his thing, and I know his program director there, Tyler Cox, you know him too.
Sure.
Tyler said, look, there wasn't much I had to do to coach him. I just had to stand back and get out of his way. And that's sort of the way I am too. I like to hire the right people and put them on stage, give them the tools to succeed, and then sit back and watch them perform. I want each show to be different and unique. Nobody should sound like anybody else. You should just do the show that you wake up screaming to get off your chest. And, of course, if I failed there, I've hired the wrong person. And fortunately for me, I haven't had too many wrong people. I've been blessed with some really good people. You're one of them.
Phil Boyce, the Senior Vice President of the Salem Radio Network, reminiscing about the life of Rush Limbaugh. I hope you don't mind, Phil, but I'd love to pull back the curtain and take our listeners to the time when Rush began at WABC. It was really kind of a corporate cram down. He came in from Sacramento. The management there didn't want him, and he told me the story about how they put him out in a cubby out in the hallway in a cubicle. That Fred guy, he said, you're not going to last. You're not going to make it. You don't have what it takes. That was a powerful life lesson as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. Every station that put Rush Limbaugh on the air was besieged with listener complaints. So imagine this guy, Fred, the general manager of WABC, who's forced to take Rush, didn't really want Rush. I think for the first year or two, they didn't even carry all of Rush. I think they had Lynn Samuels do an hour of his show.
Right. I remember Lynn Samuels, who was this crazy, eccentric, lovable, far left progressive in New York. Lynn Samuels with the squeaky voice, and that she was a character. He was a piece of work.
She died a few years ago. We missed her dearly.
I loved her.
But I'll tell you, you're right that Fred told him, you'll never be a success in New York. You might be a success in the middle of America, but not in New York City. Well, guess what? He became our highest rated show, and he did that in almost every market. And even though I'm completely confident talk radio will survive and go on and thrive without him, there will be a few stations where he has been the number one show for years that are going to suffer trying to find, what do we do now without Rush Limbaugh?
Well, I know how proud he was of the next generation of hosts. And I think of all these powerful young conservative voices. Charlie Kirk comes to mind, and the world of podcasting. I mean, Rush was a radio guy, and of course he expanded into other platforms as well. But there are so many conservatives now, and all of us, Phil, every single, you tell me if this is wrong. You tell me if you would correct this. I truly believe that every single one of us in our jobs today, whatever we do, whether we're in management, whether we're hosts, whether we're engineers, sellers, producers, receptionists, every one of us in the talk radio world owes our job today to Rush.
No, I agree with that 100%. You go back to 1988 and look at the landscape. AM radio was in decline, and it needed a savior. And Rush came on the scene and basically breathed new life into the old AM band. And the AM band is still strong today because of Rush. But there's one other thing that he did, and that I think we can't overlook. He single-handedly held off the liberal hordes from taking over this country for the last 25 years. Now that he's gone, that job is left to us. We can't let the liberals take us over. And talk radio is the last thing standing that they don't own and control, and it drives them crazy. Look at what they do own and control. All the newspapers, all the networks, cable news other than Fox, Hollywood, academia. I mean, they just basically are going to run roughshod over all of us, and talk radio is the last man standing.
I know you agree with this. I consider it a gift to have gotten to know him a little bit. You knew him much better than I did in the capacity you had in working with him. And Phil, thank you for spending a few minutes reminiscing about this titan, this giant of not only our business, but of the country. It's a sad day, but you're right. We're going to carry the torch, and we're going to do it in his honor. Thanks, boss.
Thank you, Mike, and rest in peace, Rush.
Rest in peace, Rush, indeed. Phil Boyce, the Salem Radio Network Senior Vice President.